Ladies and gentlemen, it has been an entire season since we have last gotten the group of us together. I mean, we're still missing one of us, but oh well. We got as many as we could together. We've tried all season to try to get these podcasts. Just life has gotten crazy. But here we are, seasons and the last day of the season, and we were able to schedule this and get together. The boys are back, the broadcast buddies, the podcast pals. We're together for one final podcast leading into the playoffs. Gentlemen, how are you doing this evening?
Great, bro.
I'm so excited for the 2027 eMLB season to get going. I can't wait to see what happens this year.
Hey,
Me too.
It's the Reds year, baby. It's the Reds
The remix.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that the Reds can win the division this year, just with that
Yeah.
realignment in the NL East.
Something tells me the NL East doesn't know what's about to hit them.
It sucked having the last several months just be us sitting in the preseason, but I think we're ready to go now.
You know, the funny thing is, when we were doing all of our preseason predictions, of the five of us, including Aiden, we all pretty much said that three of the five of us would make the playoffs. And only one of the five of us ended up in the playoffs, unfortunately. So we are going to look back at our predictions from the preseason and take our lumps appropriately from you all, because they were Brendan's already got his head in his hands. They were not pretty. Some things we got right, some things we got horribly wrong. And I think it's only right that we go ahead and bash on Aiden first, because he's the one that
because he bailed on us.
So looking back at Aiden's predictions for the preseason, what do you guys think was his worst prediction here?
Well, I think his worst prediction was clearly having the Mets being last in the NL East, because they ended up actually doing quite a bit better than last.
They did. They as Denver pointed out in the Discord earlier, the Mets were the only team to win more games in the second half than they did in the first half. And I looked, I was like, that can't be true. I looked through it. It was true. Normally it's because you play fewer games in the second half, because the All-Star is like after the actual halfway point. But the Mets legit won more games second half of the season than the first half. So
yeah,
impressive.
That's the most egregious one on there. I can't think of any worse.
Yeah. No, not even their World Series prediction. No, the worst one on there is obviously him predicting himself to win the World Series.
Also, the Pirates being second to last in the NL East.
Oh yeah, that's a big one too. Pirates down there just above them.
Well, he just got them wrong. He just got them reversed, right?
So, yeah.
Where did the Rays finish in their division?
They finished third to last.
Third to last. Okay. Yeah. I need to pull up the standings on OOTP.
Yeah. But if you're not in the playoffs, I mean, did you really even play?
If you're not in the playoffs, did anything even matter?
Yeah. And then he also had the Giants and the Reds winning the East and the West in the NL. Sorry, JR. You're going to hear that a lot today.
A lot of people went out on a limb based on my confidence and got stung.
Hey,
I still believe
if you don't have confidence, like, what are you playing the season for? Like, you're going in like this is our year until it's not. But
I will give Aiden a little bit of credit. He was a little bit more on the Blue Jays bandwagon early in the year than several of the rest of us. I know
this is true.
I know we'll get to Brendan's predictions. I know he had identified the Blue Jays as a sneaky team on the rise as well. But
I thought that this would be the last year of them sucking, and then next year would be the year it all came together. I was a year off in a really bad way. Yeah. I wasn't able to do the power rankings all this year. I went on a trip, and then since then I just haven't had the time. But the first version of the power rankings that came out, I basically said as much about the Blue Jays, and then that's when they took off.
Yep. I think pretty much everyone across the league, including Harris himself, probably thought there was one more year before they would be competitive. I think Harris himself is surprised at how well, how big of a step his team took forward. Like that young core is going to be scary for a long time. Like, they may not have won the division this year, but they're going to be perennial division contenders from here on out.
Yeah.
So.
And he came very close to getting Edgar Barrios in the trade deadline from me. He was he was had a real good offer there that I almost went with. So imagine having Barrios in the middle of that lineup with still the big guys like Gretzky and Murray and those folks still there.
Man, that would have been crazy. But the team that did get Barrios and was one of the playoff teams that Aiden predicted correctly, got the Rangers there as the second wild card, although they technically finished as the first wild card in our league. So
he did get the top 4 right, and not in the order, but like the teams.
That's true. Well, top 4 where?
And the AL West.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I was about to say like the top 4 teams in the playoffs. No, he didn't.
No. You got the top 4 teams in the AL West, not in the order, but I mean, hey, give him something.
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, it's at the same time, I think we all kind of did because
we did.
I mean, the West divisions are very much, like I said earlier in chat, Major League up at the top, Double A at the bottom, and I'm very much talking about the Diamondbacks when I say that. It's just such a separation in the talent in that division.
I just think it's funny that Aiden predicted the Pirates below an expansion team. Hey, Aiden, I think Cody proved it to you.
Yeah.
So, all right. And we also have Tim's up here on the screen. Yeah, also had the Rays winning the AL East. Also had the Reds winning the NL East. You were very close with the Cubs winning the NL West. That came down to the last game of the season. Yeah. A 1-game difference between the Cubs and the Padres. I think another theme we're going to see is a lot of us had the Giants in the playoffs. And let me ask you guys this. Who do you guys think had a more disappointing season, the San Francisco Giants or the Seattle Mariners?
Oh, Giants, unquestionably.
Yeah. I would say I think I would say the Mariners from that standpoint, only because, Hetz really made some moves with the eye on definitely, going all for it this year. The Rafael Devers trade that he made, some of the guys that he brought in, I think was of the mind that like this is the year I'm finally gonna overtake the Rangers, the Astros, the Angels triumvirate there, and to come up short after that, I think that would be more disappointing for me, just from the standpoint that the Giants, while it's disappointing, they still have their base there to build on top of moving forward, whereas the Mariners really went hard after this year specifically.
The Giants also really went hard after this year. They gave up a lot of pitching prospect talent to get players such as LeBlanc, such as Kirilloff, and they went out and spent a lot of money on the free agent market on relief pitching. So I would argue that the Giants maybe definitely went just as hard as the Mariners, if not even more hard, in terms of trying to win this year because of their success from last year. And those players, a lot of them, like especially like Kirilloff, I think he ended up with like a negative WAR, right?
He was the absolute worst player in Major League Baseball last year. Him and Gary Sanchez were the 2 worst.
Wow.
2.3 negative 2.3 WAR.
Yeah, so to make those moves with the eye on winning the NL West, I think the Giants had the bigger disappointment of this year.
Although I do really appreciate the use of triumvirate for the AL West. That was good. That's good. That's a good one.
That's like a $5 word.
That is.
The word of the day is.
I was an English major.
Oh, really? All right. Well, I also will point out that, Tim, you got the Pirates making the playoffs correct, as opposed to Aiden, like complete flipped where the Pirates finished, though you did not have them winning the division.
No.
You did miss on the Phillies as well.
Yeah, I felt like they were going to be really close, all of those teams. And I felt like all of the divisions would be like within a couple of games of each other. And it's just, like the Reds and the Giants and the Rays, and it was like they just never caught fire. And I just kept waiting for that sim to come when they would win, like they'd be starting to win 6, 7 in a row. And just never panned out. And when you're behind in these divisions, it's very hard to climb back in it.
Yeah.
So deep.
One thing I noticed both about Aiden's and Tim's that we actually didn't touch on, and I think it's a big deal. They both have the Red Sox at 6, and they ended up winning their division.
Can
That is
we
also
finally talk about the fact that James LeBlanc was the cancer in the clubhouse for the Red Sox,
I mean, he goes to San
and then he
Francisco.
goes
Look
to the
what happened
Giants,
to them.
and boom.
All I
Much love,
say
Commish.
is
Enjoy
this
your
man,
vacation.
everywhere he goes, causes problems. Straight cancer.
100%.
Toxic.
It's like he didn't even want to be there. It's like he always wanted to stay in Boston. He just pitched a fit when he left.
Who deals for him now?
Seriously though, the Red Sox and the Blue Jays both finishing 1 and 2 in the AL East were surprises to all 5 of us. None of us had the Red Sox and the Blue Jays in the playoff, much less winning their division. Like here, Aiden and Tim both had the Red Sox 6. Tim, you actually had the Blue Jays in last.
I really felt like they were just way too young and were going to need a year of seasoning.
Yeah.
And I felt like, the Red Sox had made the moves that they had made. They got rid of their, Triple Crown winner. And I thought that they were going to have like a down year. I also kind of expected Ed Brown to play all year.
That's fair.
So, yeah, it's just...
For the Red Sox, by the way, I just want to point out this is a team that was incredibly lucky with their pitching, and not in they got lucky with like guys breaking out. This isn't got lucky in a completely unsustainable way. 9th in strikeouts in the American League, 12th in defensive efficiency and zone rating, 11th in BABIP, 9th in runs scored, 15th not dead last anymore, second to last in bases on balls, 610 walks allowed this year, but only 196 home runs, which is tied for 5th.
In that park.
This is a pitching staff that has been the big Achilles heel, and they got incredibly lucky that just was enough for their offense to keep winning.
And it ended up with them getting a first round bye in the playoffs. So will that luck continue?
I feel like the early season. I feel like a lot of cases here, our early season analysis can be rightfully criticized. I feel like with the Red Sox, it was justified, and they got lucky.
That's fair. They got very lucky though, because it shot them to the top.
Mm-hmm.
You could also argue that the Rays and Orioles got unlucky at different points this season. Although the Orioles, we don't even recognize their team anymore. So,
yeah, I think that's one of the things for me is that you see, especially with Aiden and Tim, right off the bat had the Orioles as a wild card team. I think we can all, or at least I don't know, maybe we don't all agree, but it's very likely that if Brenden hadn't made some of those moves, they were at least going to be a wild card team making it in. And I don't say that as a criticism because I can't blame Brenden for deciding, I would rather go ahead and make some moves here to potentially win a championship, a year or two down the line versus just be happy with a team getting into the playoffs. But I think, that's a squad that looked like it was headed at least to be a wild card team before, that changed up.
Well, I think nobody expected Nutball to just never get back to his original form. And
actually, Brenden kind of was like thinking that might happen.
Well, in 14 appearances out of the Pittsburgh bullpen, a 2.86 ERA, striking out 22 innings, 15 strikeouts, 7 walks, 2.86 ERA, and he might have reinvented himself as a bullpen arm in Pittsburgh.
And apparently, everyone in Pittsburgh can pitch really well, regardless of who they are, though, because that pitching staff was absolutely nasty this year.
Cody knows what he's doing.
mm-hmm.
It just took a couple of seasons for the players to figure out that he knew what he was doing.
Well, I think it just took time. It took time for everyone to develop and mature. I mean, that team is so radically different than the one that I think they won the NL Central in 2024.
They did.
It's a completely different team outside of like the core CCPs.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was not an issue of the Pirates struggling to put it together. It was an issue of the Pirates waiting for everyone to grow and develop.
Especially someone like Bracamontes.
God,
Bro.
this is ridiculous.
All right.
One more
Go
thing
ahead.
on Bracamontes, I'm sorry.
No,
we
go
were
ahead.
in the general chat earlier today, and Bracamontes is the only player in our league who had an OSA current rating for power of 20.
The only one. Not well. Are there some people that have a potential of 20 that could get there?
Yes.
Okay.
Multiple guys have 20 like potential, but he's the only one who has a current.
Gotcha.
Wow.
All right. So here were my predictions for the year. I will say I am proud of the fact that I was the only one to pick the Padres for the NL West. Again, that did come down to the last game of the season, but
You had the order right between those two, and if you knock out the Giants, then
if I knocked out the Giants and dropped them down to where'd they finish? Like, did they finish above the Rockies or below the Rockies? Above the Rockies by one game. Then I would have had it absolutely correct. No, D-backs, you finished ahead of the Brewers.
Mm-hmm.
You finished fifth in the division.
Yeah, we finished fifth.
But again, like with everyone else, I was also high on the Reds and not as high on the Pirates. I was also high on the Mariners too. I had them in. I wasn't as high on the Rays as the other two guys that we've looked at so far. But I was really high on your Orioles, Brenden. I think that injury early on to Buster Bluth really kind of derailed you guys from the start. I think that was a big reason why the inconsistency happened throughout the year.
probably, but part of baseball.
Yep. And I will point out, I did also have the Blue Jays down near the bottom. I didn't have them in last, but I had them close to last. I actually was higher on the Red Sox than most of you guys, but I still didn't think they were going to make the playoffs. I also had the Mariners missing the playoffs.
Can I also point out one other running theme in these three standings things that we've seen so far? Is the White Sox are always in the bottom half, but none of us saw them having the worst record in the league.
This is true. That was surprising.
By quite a bit. By 6 games, they were the worst team in the league.
Yeah, they were the only team to not hit 60 wins. So, yeah, that was surprising as well. So, anyone else want to take any digs at me?
I just can't believe that this idiot here thought the Orioles were going to win the AL East.
Yeah, man. Who else would think that?
What other dumbass would have picked that?
Oh, what?
Oh, wait.
Not only that, but picked them to win the World Series. Now, to your credit, you were the only person to get the Phillies and Pirates coming out of the East. You did have the Braves also third, but you just didn't have them in the playoffs. So you were very close to getting the. You just had the Dodgers winning the NL West, though.
Yeah, and I also put the Blue Jays last. Had the Rockies last too. That's right. Hey, look, I could be proud of some things.
Yes, that's right.
I don't got a lot to be proud of right now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I did pick Astros #1 seed though.
You did that. I think you were the only one to do that. Yeah, because no,
Tim had it too.
Yep. I'm going to take a page out of your book next year, and how you would do it for Joe's on the Pros. I'm just going to take a coin.
No,
it's probably going to be a lot more accurate.
Might be just as accurate.
I could do that.
You just need to get one of those Dungeons & Dragons 8-sided die and just roll it that way because you got 18.
Oh, what color you want? I'm good.
There you go. I mean, I've got mine right in front of me. So now, let's talk about JR.
You can see that Brenden and I were both the two highest on the Mariners heading into the season and how that turned out.
But you had the Mariners, the Reds, and the Giants winning their divisions.
I just
all
want to
three
point out, you also
of
had
them.
the Mariners and the Giants being the 1 seeds.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can safely say that JR is now our designated kiss of death for our predictions.
If he likes your team.
Yeah, considering the Indians barely made it in the playoffs, too.
That's true. That came down to the last series. So stay tuned for our playoff predictions.
Yeah. That's such a great lead up to what we're about to talk about.
JR is sitting up in like the Coliseum like a Roman emperor. He's holding his thumb out there and he goes,
Oh man.
The boss has spoken.
He also had the Blue Jays last, but he did have the Red Sox fourth, which was tied for the highest that any of us had, the Red Sox. But you just 3 of your 4 division winners were considered 3 of the more disappointing seasons in the league. So
I'm also going to make fun of myself and JR here. I had the A's in 4th, and he had the Royals in 4th.
this is true. Those are the 2 bottom teams in the West.
Yep.
Yeah. Everyone's favorite GM will happily point out how much many of us underestimated Minnesota this year, and got to hand it to them. They did much better than I expected. Although, still, that bottom half of that division, it looks like the Florida State League compared to the rest of the league. I would say.
Yeah, I was the closest on the Twins. I had them 6th, but they ended up in 5th in the division. So. Let's see. What else can we point out here? Oh yeah, none of y'all picked me to make the playoffs. What?
Well, in fairness to us, you were joining a very, very competitive division, and we just didn't think very highly of you.
No, like legit, it was a homer pick. I'm ignoring it on purpose. No, it was legit a homer pick. I did feel like my team had the talent to make the playoffs, but I knew it was going to be tough.
I remember during the preseason that was the argument. We all agreed that like you had the talent to do it. We just figured you would be among the team. Like you would be like if you were getting in the last team in. So
yeah, I think y'all said that if I was in the NL East, I would easily win that division.
Yeah, I think we did have a conversation about that, and we all thought that the hitting was going to be the problem for you, or at least I did.
So did I.
I wondered where you were going to score the runs to compete against, the Cubs and the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And
then all of a sudden
behold, the pitching went to hell.
Well, no, and not only that, I scored the most runs in the entire league. I scored more runs than the Astros did.
So what we're hearing is if JR's predictions are the kiss of death for a team, then whatever part of your team you choose to focus on in the offseason is also the kiss of death for your own team.
This is true. No, this has happened every single season for me. I fix one area and then another area goes to crap.
Shane Rodecker, sophomore slump. You heard it here first.
No. Don't do that to me.
He'll make a second CCP and only focus on it, and that CCP will get drafted by the Cubs.
Oh no! Don't no. You guys know. No, if he makes another CCP, everyone's going to see that, and he's going to be going top 5. You guys know that. So.
Oh yeah.
All right. Anything else? Anything else you think we need to touch on, and how bad our predictions were? Actually, let's do a little. In terms of the playoff teams, how did we do? In terms of were we correct? So we'll do mine first. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give a point if the team made the playoffs, and I'll give 2 points if you predicted the correct positioning of them as well. So the O's, I get no points. I get 1 point for the Angels, 1 for the Astros, 1 for the Indians, and that's it. So that's a total of 3 for me.
Is it possible to finish with negative numbers? That's what I'm looking at it.
Based on if like you had the Blue Jays in last and then they're division winners.
Yeah, kinda. Yeah.
All right, so for Aiden, he had the Angels, Astros, Rangers, and Indians. None of them in the right spot, so he gets 4. Brenden, you had the Astros, Angels in the correct spot, and you had the Indians.
The Astros
4 points. Let's go, baby.
4. Let's see, Tim, you had Astros, Angels, Rangers.
Well, wait a minute. Brenden also had the Indians at 1 point.
Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4.
But
No. I should have 5 points.
Yeah, Astros and Angels finished in the correct position. Both of them did, and the Indians did not. So
you did. I forgot about the Astros winning the division. So yeah, Brenden looking good there. And then JR had
always looking good.
Indians, Astros, and Angels. So 3 points for him. All right, National League. 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 4 points there. I got the Cubs and Padres. So I got 6. My NL predictions are pretty good. Aiden, wrong. 1, 1, 1. So 3. Brenden, 1, 2, 3, 4.
5, because I got the correct
Got the
spot
Cubs
for
right.
the Cubs.
Oh, the Cubs. Yep. I was like, where is it? And then Tim, 1, 2, 3. And then JR had 2
Two.
points for the Cubs, 3, 4. So total number of points, I had 9. Aiden had 7. Brenden had 10. Tim had 6. And JR had 7.
I'm last again.
So congrats, Brenden. You were the most accurate in picking the playoff teams and their locations. But I will say, like, honorable mention, I had the most teams right. I just didn't have them in the right spot.
Well, you know what? We can just call you first loser.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. If you ain't first,
Tell
you're
him what
last,
he's
right,
won,
Ricky
Johnny.
Bobby? All right. Well, enough about that.
What does he win?
Let's
Bragging rights over his friends.
We are now going to move on to predicting the playoffs. And we're going to predict all the playoffs because there's not going to be enough time for us to record an episode in between each day because literally we're going Monday, Tuesday, Thursday for these playoffs. So if you want to catch those playoffs, make sure to tune into the Twitch channel. Link is going to be down in the description. But let's share this screen now.
I should say that without Aiden here, I am having to fill the void of the chaos that is existed.
All right, so this is so we have a new layout here where every person's picks are going to be directly above them, so you don't have to remember where everyone's picks are going to be. So
I feel like I'm at the bottom of a Tetris pile. Old man reference.
Okay, so we have the 3 tier makers here. What we're gonna do is you guys are all gonna choose the winners for each of the series, and we're gonna load them into each of the brackets here. So actually, I should have done this earlier, but so right now the wildcard teams are Cardinals. Oh no, you know what? I'm not gonna do all that. We're just gonna put the winners in there that you guys predict. That's gonna take too long. So. I guess I'll go first for the first wild card. You guys want to do AL or NL first?
Well, there's only one AL GM here, so let's just do AL first. That way we can spend more time on the NL because y'all know more about it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So let's go to the
You
playoffs.
overestimate me.
All right. I'm just gonna. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go from left to right on the OOTP screen that I have in front of me. So the first series we've got are the Toronto Blue Jays taking on the LA Angels. And this will happen like the real life MLB. All 3 games will be played at the Better Seeds home city. So all 3 of these games will be played in Los Angeles. So that is our first prediction. I will go first. I think that as great as a season that Toronto has, I think the playoff experience of the Angels is going to be too much for the Blue Jays. They had a fantastic season. All credit to Harris and making the playoffs, but I do think it's going to be tough to get around the depth of the roster that the LA Angels have. Even though Toronto won 3 out of 4 during the regular season, I just think the playoff experience of the Angels is going to be too much to overcome.
Which makes my Blue Jays pick. I like the way this team is built, and I have them as a surprise.
All right, the upset.
No disrespect to the Angels, they will probably win the World Series now because of this pick.
No, that's JR's pick.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I don't know my place.
If the second to last sim had not had a complete and total calamity for the Blue Jays in it, I would pick the Blue Jays here. But Kyler Murray, he fractured his ankle?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, big injury.
And he will not be available for the playoffs, and he will be healthy just barely in time for spring training. I feel like maybe the Blue Jays still win a game because the Angels only 1-3 against them this year, but I'm picking Angels 2-1.
I guess I'll say the Angels win in 3 as well. It's going to be a 2-1 series. Do you have a number of games?
2-1.
Yeah, 3-game series.
Mm-hmm.
All right, kiss of death.
The Kyler Murray injury is a big one. I mean, he had such a monster year for the Blue Jays, but I do still like the star power there with those young Blue Jays bats, and also some of the young arms that they've got going there. I just think they're going to come out and show out here in the postseason and take that in 3 games.
All right, so the Angels are going to win then.
Kiss of death.
We're sorry,
Yes, I know.
Harris.
We're going to keep this running joke going. All right. Well, we're split here though. It's 2-2. So that looking forward for a competitive series there. The next AL matchup is going to be the Indians traveling to Texas to take on the Rangers. Let's go in reverse order this time. Let's start with JR.
I really thought the Indians were going to have a little bit of a better season with the way they kind of loaded up in the offseason there and made that top-notch starting rotation even better heading in. But I think I'm going to go with the Rangers here coming through. Jamie's team had a big season, 104 wins. The Thurmans there kind of leading the charge on the mound and at the plate. I think they're headed for a good run here.
I think a 2-0 Rangers victory, and neither game is particularly close. Bradford, obviously still hurt with the torn triceps. Barboza has dealt with a couple minor injuries over the last couple weeks. I just don't think the Indians have it to keep up.
Yeah, I kind of agree. As much as I like the Indians, they've just lost way too much.
I won't be the dissenter here. I also agree. Texas is they're a 100 win team for a reason. I think, aren't they? No, the Cubs had 100 wins coming in as a wildcard team, but having a 100 win season going against a Indians team that almost backed its way into the playoffs. They had a very poor stretch to end the season. They almost gave up that playoff spot to the Tigers at the end. They did step it up and win in the end. A little bit of help from Toronto beating the Tigers in their series. But, yeah, I think that Texas is going to overpower. I think it's also going to be a 2-0 sweep. A little, like you guys were mentioning, a little bit disappointing season from Cleveland. We thought they were going to be a little bit stronger. Maybe they step up in the playoffs and be the team that we expected them to be. But as it stands right now, I agree with you guys. All right, moving National League. We've got the Braves traveling to Philadelphia in an NL East showdown, even an old NL East showdown with the rivals from the pre-expansion alignment. Going to be played in Philadelphia for all 3 games. Let's start with Tim.
I'm picking the Phillies in 3, but this will probably be the closest of the series in my mind.
All right, Brenden.
I was catching myself up here. You know what? Both teams were 6-6 this season. The Phillies were arguably the better team. They were just a little bit unlucky. They had one of the best. They didn't score as much as their OPS suggested that they should have. The Braves are a team built for offense. It's going to be in an offensive park. It could be a slugfest. Braves upset in 3, 2-1. Sorry, Heber and I spent a lot of time talking today about how his team's going to win.
Yeah, I think you're right, Brennan, about this being a slugfest. You're talking, these are the 2 teams that were first and second in the National League in home runs on the season. The Phillies in particular really live by the long ball. I know Bryce Harper kind of got dinged up during the last week of the season, but it doesn't look like it's something that will affect him too much. I think there's maybe just a little bit more star power on the Phillies side to come through in this one. Kenny's building something, pretty good there in Atlanta. They've got, a good thing going there, but I think there's just maybe a little too much with the Phillies.
Yeah, and we're talking about playing in Philadelphia in a pitcher's park, and that's going to be a slugfest.
Batter's Park. Hitter's Park.
What did I say?
Pitcher's Park.
Oh, whoops. Yeah, you're right. A hitter's park. Sorry. But it's throwing me off now. But I think that because of that fact, Hebrew has spent time developing and getting his pitching staff to accommodate for the fact that they play in a hitter's park. He has loaded that staff with a bunch of ground ball pitchers. He has loaded that infield defense to accommodate that. Whereas Atlanta still has a pitching staff that can be prone to giving up a lot of runs. And so I think because it's being played in Philadelphia, because the Phillies have designed their team around that ballpark, I think the Phillies use that home field advantage and take the series 2-1. I don't think it's going to be a sweep. This, like Tim said, this is going to be the closest series of all of them. But I think the Phillies do take it in 3 games.
So 6 games played between the two teams in Philadelphia this year. Atlanta won 5 of them.
Ooh.
Atlanta won 5 of them with run totals. Here's the scores of those games: 12-3, 7-3, 6-1, 11-3, lost 3-7, 8-5.
So maybe the ground ball pitchers weren't doing their jobs.
Maybe not.
Ooh, interesting. All right, and the last wild card game of the set, we've got the St. Louis Cardinals going to Chicago Cubs in the classic NL Central rivalry that came down to the last day to decide this matchup, as the Cubs just fell 1 game short of the division title under the Padres, but they had a record of 104-58. They won the season series against the Cardinals 9-3, and it's looking like an uphill battle for the Cardinals. Brenden, you want to go first?
Do I want to?
Okay, you're going first.
So much like Philadelphia's performance in their home ballpark, just inverted. Chicago, in 6 games against the Cardinals this year, in Chicago was 5-1. 3 of those games that were Chicago victories were 1-run games. There was 1 blowout, a 3-run loss, and a St. Louis blowout of Chicago. St. Louis has got a killer offense and a pitching staff that has repeatedly crapped the bed this year. But it is a pitching staff with a lot of left-handed pitchers. And Chicago has struggled against lefties. They're better than they were last year, but the lefties were how Philadelphia almost upset them in the divisional series. You know what? You only live once. 2-1 Cardinals.
Oh my God, you actually picked the Cardinals.
Losing game 1 when Stever's on the mound, winning the next 2.
I mean, we'll see. All right, JR.
This time tomorrow night, we'll know.
JR, you're muted, by the way.
Yeah, I actually think this might be the closest of these series, just from the standpoint of the Cubs here toward the end of the season, kind of fell back just a hair to drop into the wild card, and there is just so much offense on that Cardinals squad that in a 3-game series, I think it could be pretty tight. I do think the Cubs ultimately win. Mainly because they do have an improved pitching staff this year. That was kind of one of those spots heading into the season. I think that we were all not totally sure that the Cubs pitching staff would be able to hold up, and they actually finished doing a fairly good job there. So I think the Cubs take it 2-1, but I think it's a hard fought series.
I want to point out one thing real quick. For the 2nd consecutive year, the Cardinals and the Cubs had the exact same record in September.
Are you serious? We did? Man, I started September on a losing streak too. Okay, so for me, it's obvious. I run the Cardinals, so there's going to be bias here. I will differentiate between what my head thinks and what my heart thinks. My head is looking at the matchup where they won 9 out of 12 games against us. I'm looking at their offense compared to my pitching, and I'm wondering if my offense can keep up with how much my pitching is going to give up. And so we're playing in Chicago where they were 57-24, better, a 700 winning or 703 winning percentage there. It's just hard for me to say that my team will overcome all of that adversity. But my team had to overcome adversity all year in regards to my pitching being absolute crap. in order to make the playoffs to begin with. And I mean, obviously, I'm going to be the homer pick. I'm going to pick my own team to win, but I with the caveat of my I fully expect to lose. So take that as you will.
Well, I picked the Cubs, remember?
Oh, kiss of death! Yay, I'm good.
To feel even better, I'm picking the Cubs as well. And I've got the worst score of anybody. So yeah, I just it's 3 games in Wrigley. If it was a standard playoff series where there was a little more, where there was at least 1 game or maybe 2 in St. Louis, it would be closer. But I think that home field advantage is going to be difficult to overcome.
Yeah, and like I said, I fully expect my playoff run to end here. I'm just picking it because my team I absolutely believe my team has the talent to win. It's just my pitching hasn't pitched to that talent all season, and why would it do that now? Although to be fair, 2 seasons ago my offense was crap and they put up 16 on the Diamondbacks in the wild card game. So who knows? So, all right. Well, there are your wild card matchups. We are moving on to the league division series, and this is going to be a little bit interesting because each of us, based on our picks for the wild card, have to figure out our matchups because everything's going to be reseeded for the second round. So, we'll just go with who the team is going to be matched up with, and then we'll slot in which wild card team we're supposed to pick with. So, we'll start with the National League this time. And we will go with the second seed in the National League, the Pittsburgh Pirates. So for me, the matchup with the Pirates would be the Phillies. So the Pennsylvania rivalry between the Phillies and the Pirates. For me, I think the Pirates have finally shown what they had the potential to be this season. Their pitching staff has been one of the best in the league. Their hitting is scary when it is on, and even if it's going with a 7-game series, by the way, all these series from here on out are 7 games. There's no longer a 5-game league division series. I think the Pirates will win the series in 6 to the LDS. All right, so Tim, for you, the matchup would be with the Chicago Cubs, I believe. The highest seed remaining goes to Pittsburgh.
In that case, I would have Pittsburgh in 5. I just think they match up really well against the kind. I think their pitching is enough to stop Chicago, and they've got enough hitting to do some damage as well.
All right, Brenden, you've got Pittsburgh versus Atlanta.
Pittsburgh and Atlanta this year. Pittsburgh won the season series 8-4. We have the matchup of a slugging offense, but not the best slugging offense, going up against probably the best pitching staff not named Houston. Ethan Knight makes 2 starts in the series, allows 1 total earned run across, let's say, 14 2/3 innings. 4-1 series victory for the Pirates.
Throwing a little love to the former Oriole there. All right, JR, you have the Pirates taking on the Phillies.
Well, they would be facing the Cubs, right?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the Cubs. You're right.
Yeah. So, here, again, you got 2 104 win teams meeting here, 2 teams that had really great seasons. But I just think this Pirates team is just so stacked, talking about their pitching staff. And even with the lineup, you have somebody like Devers, who they brought in, middle of the season. So, he hasn't been there the full year to really have an impact on the team stats. And just, Bracamontes missed some time early too, so he still could have had even more monster numbers there. I see them winning this one in probably 5 games. I think they'll be able to handle the Cubs pretty well.
All right, so all of us have the Pirates moving on, regardless of who they're playing in their matchup. let's move on to the number 1 seed in the National League, and that is the San Diego Padres. I did get that seeding right? For the final? Yeah, because the Padres had 105.
Yeah.
All right, so Tim, we'll start with you. You have the Padres taking on the Phillies.
I think this is the most fun second round matchup for me. I really, having one of the few Kims that is not a Padre on my team, it has been fun to watch the rest of them. And I've really paid close attention to how this team is constructed, and I don't see very many weaknesses here. And the Phillies are kind of feel like the same way. I think this goes 7.
Ooh.
And I think the Padres win because they have home field advantage.
All right, Brenden, you have the Padres taking on the Cardinals.
I do. So here's something interesting. The Cardinals actually won the season series 7-5. I was actually in the process of looking through the matchups. They played 6 times in the month of August. Those are the last 2 recent matchups because I don't believe they played in September.
No, we did not.
Correct. St. Louis won 5 of those 6 games. Here's the scores of those games. In San Diego, St. Louis won 11-6, 7-6, then lost 3-4. In St. Louis, they won 9-6, 9-6, and 6-0. I think San Diego is the best team in the National League, period. And I was going to stand behind that with the Pirates. The Pirates are the most talented. The Padres are consistently the most well put together. No team over the last 4 years in the National League has won more games than the San Diego Padres. San Diego Padres, however, have been consistently denied in the playoffs. And as much as it hates me to say this, St. Louis in 7.
Yes.
And I'm not happy about that pick. That's my head. That's me looking at the matchup and going, oh, I gotta give Anjou some credit. And I'm only saying that, by the way, because you told me I was gonna do it during the show, and so now
I know you're making me do extra editing work. Yeah.
It's the curse of Hassan Kim.
Well, yeah, Eddie's not too happy with you because you messed up his predictions.
And it really does hurt my heart to say that about Steve, because I want Steve's team to win the World Series. And honestly, if I had not picked the Cardinals to do that, I would have picked them to keep going. I think the Cardinals are the one team that could potentially go in there and beat them.
Makes me think I should have had them as the wild card matchup instead of the second round matchup. But what are you gonna do? All right, JR, you have the Padres taking on the Phillies.
Yeah, I can't echo enough of what Brenden said about the Padres and how well they're put together. I mean, if you take a look from July on, they played 7-10 baseball, including 19-4 in the month of September, just absolutely scorching hot. And I think that definitely continues here. I would have them in the matchup with the Phillies. I think they handle the Phillies pretty easily through here. Maybe it goes 6 games. I'd probably give the Phillies a little bit of a shot there, but I think they handle it and move on to the NLCS.
One more thing I want to add on this. I always think about one more thing after.
Colombo.
The Padres won the most games in the league post All-Star break, 48-19. 4th most wins, Cardinals.
Ooh, 4th. Ooh.
I mean, when you think about this, 48 wins for the Cardinals, or for the Padres post All-Star break, 46 for the Rangers, 43 for the Astros, 42 for the Cardinals. It's close. Yeah, these are the 4 hottest teams in baseball. Those are the 4 hottest teams in baseball, and they're all facing off in my divisional round bracket.
It's like, so I heard somebody, and I even saw Danny Smith post in the chat on one of the streams lately to Jake. Sorry that Danny didn't do such a great job this year, because he only hit like 284. He's only got 9.5 WAR.
I know, right?
How much of that is defense, you think?
quite a bit, but
Yeah.
it still counts. I mean, it,
It's like
at
with the
this
Padres.
level, yeah. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, my 148 WRC plus isn't that good.
Yeah,
My
because I
422 on
didn't
base
hit
percentage.
350 with 70 bombs. Sorry.
34 home runs, 102 RBIs. Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'll take it.
All right, so my pick for San Diego versus St. Louis. At my preseason predictions, I picked the Padres to win the West. I picked the Padres to win the World Series. And as much as I want to agree with Brenden that my team actually matches up well against the Padres, you can't overlook the fact that they were the hottest. They are the hottest team in baseball coming in this with the, what was it, 19-4 in September. That push got them the division title where they only won by one game. And so I just don't think the Cardinals will be able to overcome the hottest team in baseball right now and the number one seed in the National League. And I thought that from preseason. So,
And plus, they get what 3 or 4 days to rest.
yeah,
get
some
the
people
lineup
think
all
that the
set.
days to rest throw people off more than getting rest, but I don't know how much that really takes into account for OOTP. So,
Yeah.
all right, American League time. So we will start with Brenden. We're talking about the Boston Red Sox. And for you, the Red Sox will be taking on the Los Angeles Angels.
4-0 sweep. Angels. No further analysis required.
Oh, whoops.
Wow.
All right. All right.
I'm
So,
awake.
JR, for you, they will be taking on the Blue Jays.
I think it should be the Rangers, right? I picked
No,
Yep.
because the
you know what? Then I
Astros
got
were the
that.
number one.
Then I got that wrong. The Rangers will be playing the Boston Red Sox in Brendan's pick. So let me take that
Now,
off the board.
would that be the case?
Yeah, highest
Oh
wild card
no,
seed.
you're right. I thought the Angels were a higher seed than the Rangers.
Yeah, the Rangers were the number one wild card.
See, where would we be without Jared to keep us straight?
Still a
That's not
4-0
going to change your pick
Rangers.
too much, I wouldn't think.
Boston's about to get sent back to where they belong.
Someone's a little salty.
Divisional rival, no less.
Yeah, I tend to agree in a way. I think whether it would be the Rangers or the Angels, I think either one of them would be a strong favorite going against Boston coming through here. I think Boston can pull a game out to get a game in there, but I really like the Rangers and where they're set up right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not much more that can be said. I've got Rangers in 5.
We all agree. I have the Rangers as well.
All right. Well, that was pretty straightforward. All right, last one. We've got JR. You're going to start this one. You've got the Blue Jays taking on the Astros.
Yeah, again, I would love to pick the Blue Jays with that young team with all the talent there, but especially here without Kyler Murray, I just can't see them pulling the upset against the Astros and that juggernaut.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I have them taking on the Angels here, which is a little bit more of an intriguing matchup with the division rivals. But I think LA is took a half step back this year compared to where they were last year. And I think the Astros are just as good as they are this year as they were last year. And I think the Astros are going to take the series over LA.
Yeah.
In 6. I'll take it at 6.
Toronto's Cinderella season ends here with Houston in 4 games.
Ooh, a sweep.
So, can we all agree that the eternal battle of eMLB, the two top rivals are the Angels and the Astros? I mentioned low record over the last 4 years. Over the last 4 seasons, the Astros have the most wins in eMLB, 398. The Angels have won 4 less games.
Yeah.
Just freaking 4.
Wow.
And it's a gap between those two and number 3. That said, the Astros always have the Angels number. This year, the Astros were 9-3. They faced off 9 times after the All-Star break, with the Astros winning 6 of those 9 games. As much as I really want Tom to go in there and finally get it done, I agree the Angels did take a bit of a step backwards. Astros in 6.
All right. So we have our final 4 from each side. It looks like me, Tim, and JR all agree on the final 4 teams. And then Brenden chose the Cardinals over the Padres.
So Andrew,
worry, they're not gonna stand
how do you feel about agreeing with both Jared and myself?
I'm scared. Well, actually, no. That works out in my favor because that means the Cardinals will move on. That works out in my favor.
I mean, you're discounting the fact that I'm also a kiss of death. So
no, you're not. You had the best play. You predicted the playoff teams the best.
Yeah, I'm a fluke.
All right. Well, it's time for the League Championship Series. Who will be our World Series contenders? I will start with the American League. This will be a very good matchup between Houston and Texas. The thing is, I just can't see Houston doing anything else other than making it back to the World Series. They really didn't have to really change anything from last year, and they didn't really change anything from last year. It's all working yet again, and I just can't see any other team out of the American League making it to the World Series, and I believe that Houston will win in 6 over Texas.
I think Houston wins too. I think the fact that they sweep Toronto will make it, they get a couple extra days off and they just reload. Not that they would need much help. Texas still a great team, but Houston for the AL title.
So I've used head-to-head records a lot tonight. I feel like it's good information for the viewers. It is fun to look at. Teams matched up 12 times this year, as all division opponents do. They split the season series 6-6. They faced off 6 times, so half their games, post All-Star break. 3 in Houston, 3 in Arlington. Of the 3-game series in Houston, Texas won 13-3, and then Houston won 4-1 twice. Of the 3 games in Arlington, Houston won 5-1, and then Texas won 8-2 twice. Both teams beating each other. Both teams winning at home. These are the 2 best teams in the American League. These are the 2 hottest teams in the American League. Houston has had the 113-win season. Texas is the first wild card. Texas getting back into, that's got the Thurmans leading the way. I think this is the most competitive series we'll see in the entire playoffs, and Texas wins in 7.
Texas
wins in 7.
Whoa.
It's a little bit of like a 2019 World Series situation going on, where each team only wins their ones at home, and then finally they are inverted of the 2019 World Series, where each team wins their ones at home, and then Texas wins on the road.
Wow, bold prediction from Brenden. All right, JR.
Well, look, all I'm saying is that we each had the same matchup, so someone's got to pick Texas.
No, we don't.
Yeah, actually, Brenden beat me to it. I'm picking Texas to win here as well in a 7-game series. I really feel like if you look at their rosters, I think you could still say that Houston has the better roster there, but there are a couple of really big stars on the Texas team, and I really do think that move for Jamie to pick up Edgar Barrios is going to be a huge factor here as another really big superstar bat to fill in with that lineup with Lola Thurman, with Vlad Jr., CJ Abrams, and some of those guys. I think he's going to make an impact here. And their pitching has been really solid as well, not too far behind Houston's there, and you got Cassie Thurman, you got Hans Kraus as a really, really strong 1-2 at the head of that rotation. I really like what Texas has there, and Ben's been on an incredible roll kind of year after year here, and at a certain point, you just got to figure that there's going to be some kind of bump in the road.
Speaking of Barrios, anyone curious to see how Barrios did after getting traded to Texas?
Go for it.
55 games played. Slash line 279, 399, 622, an OPS of 1021. That's a WRC plus of 170. 20 home runs at 33 in Cincinnati, so good for 53 on the season.
Yeah, 20 homers
and 108 home runs the last 2 years.
20 homers in 55 games with Texas.
That's insane.
Wow.
Say Texas made a good move there. Now, locker room chemistry notwithstanding. All right. The NLCS between Pirates and Padres, except for Brenden. Let's see.
Because
Tim,
mine's different, you want me to go first or last?
I think you should go last because it's different.
Okay.
So, Tim, you go, then JR, then me, and then Brenden.
Don't make me pick this one.
All right, you want me to go first then?
No. This goes 7. The one thing that helps Pittsburgh here is that San Diego's pitching staff doesn't strike out a whole lot of people. But Pittsburgh hitters do strike out a lot. So I think that's kind of a wash. I keep coming back to how the Padres have been snake bit in the playoffs. And as someone who realizes how extremely hard it is to even get close to 500 in this league, the fact that they are continually in the playoffs is impressive. I just think it's the Pirates' year. Bracamontes hits a home run off of Tyler Johnson in the 9th in Game 7, and the Pirates go to the World Series.
Well, it can't be a walk-off, but
Go ahead in the top of the 9th.
Oh yeah, that works.
And then you call on Mike Purter out of the bullpen to shut it down.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, JR.
Yeah, I just that pitching staff that Cody's assembled with Pittsburgh there. When you factor in that lineup wise, you feel they're fairly even. I mean, you have maybe couple bigger names there on the Padres side. But I think they're a fairly even matchup offensively, and that there's just a couple of really top-notch starting pitchers and bullpen arms there with Pittsburgh. I see them taking it, let's say 6 games, but I think the Pirates make their way to the World Series.
All right, and then for me, so I look at the Pirates season and I see what Cody did at the trade deadline. He went all in to win a World Series this year. He felt that his team's time was now, and it ended up in a division title, and kudos to him for that. However, on the Padres side, they didn't really make that much noise around the trade deadline, and that's because I feel like they already had the team to make it to the World Series and to win the World Series. I picked the Padres to win the World Series in the preseason, and I'm going to be sticking to my guns, and I think the Padres make it to the World Series to take on Houston for the Ben versus Steve matchup that we have been waiting for a while, that we were a couple games away last year, but the Cubs upended the Padres in the LCS last year. But I think Ben and Steve finally get their World Series matchup that they've been wanting from the beginning, ever since 2.0 started, and I think it's going to be a great World Series.
I love that World Series matchup so much. Unfortunately, I'm not in the same position to be predicting that World Series. I mentioned earlier that the Angels and the Astros are the eternal rivals of eMLB. However, they're close number 2, Their close number 2 is the personal rivalry between Cody Koshin and Andrew Alexander.
I'll be honest, I would love this as an LCS matchup. The smack talk would never end.
And the smack talk would never end until the teams hit the field. The Cardinals coming fresh off an upset in the wildcard series, coming fresh off an upset in the divisional series, get rocked and
Yeah,
get swept by the
saw that
Pirates.
Yeah. I saw you building that up. I was like, he's gonna flip it on me. I knew.
Yeah, I did.
You can't fool me. I knew exactly what you were setting up.
What's the over under on hit batters in this series?
I'm gonna go ahead and
I've got 6.5.
No, I'm setting the line at 14.5 in a 4-game series.
What's the over under on number of concussions?
6.
Ejected
players 20.
All right, so
they can't play Game 7 because they don't have enough players to field.
It'll end up being a AAA teams matching up in the LCS, calling a bunch of injury replacements.
Commish finds you both like $60 million a piece.
Can't sign players in the off season anymore. Oh, I mean that would be a fantastic LCS. But like I predicted, I don't think my team's gonna be able to get there just based on my pitching alone. So I'll be very happy if I do make it that far. All right, we got our World Series.
If you get past the Cubs, you're good, but you're not gonna get past the Cubs.
As you predicted me to get past the Cubs.
I know. I'm rooting for it. Still don't think it's gonna happen.
Again, head versus heart. All right. So we have our World Series matchup. Brenden and JR both have the Rangers taking on the Pirates. And then I have the Astros and Padres, and Tim has the Astros and Pirates. Let's do the two guys that have the same World Series predictions first. We'll go with Brenden.
Man, I just went and I've expended so much energy getting hyped up for that one.
all for it to become deflating down because I knew what you were doing.
This is going to be if we get this matchup, and I really do hope we do. I think that this is a great matchup. It's both teams. I feel had to go through a little bit of a rebuilding process the last couple seasons. Obviously, the Pirates bottomed out more than the Rangers did. The Rangers just kind of hovered around and weren't as competitive last year as they were in years past. It's the Pirates' year. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. But I think the Rangers give them a hell of a ride. And 6, Pirates win. They can't all be 7-game series, World Series.
Hey, last year's was only 5.
That's true. The year before that was only 6.
Yeah, I think this could be a really fun matchup. I kind of, in a lot of ways hope we get to see something like this. Will be a fresh matchup of teams there in the World Series. There's just something for me about this Texas team that makes me want to pick them to win in a nice competitive series there with the star power that they have carrying through and kind of the balance of that team there. I just think they're really set up there, and you got Edgar Barrios going up against one of his other former clubs there with Pittsburgh.
That is a nice storyline.
Nice little storyline there to follow. Again, Cody was trying to get him back at the deadline. He was another who pursued him there to try and bring him back to Pittsburgh, which would have been kind of interesting. But I think Texas finds a way to get it done in 6.
All right, the Ben versus Steve matchup for me, Astros and Padres. And I'm going to start sounding like a broken record at this point, despite the fact that the Houston Astros are the defending World Series champions, and they have been the class of the eMLB all season. I just think that Steve has built his team really well, and they are one of the few teams that can take on Houston. And as I said in my prediction from the beginning, I think this is the Padres' year, and I'm going to stick to my guns and say the Padres win in 7 in an all-time classic World Series.
I think you're right on the number of games. This is the Pirates year. It has been. Cody's made a lot of brilliant moves. I think Houston is just too big a hill to climb. And I think Houston repeats. And we each have a different team winning the World Series. That's cool.
That's
All
good.
right. And watch it be none of these four.
Exactly.
Watch the Boston Red Sox win the World Series.
Against the Chicago Cubs.
Hey, that was a little bit. That was like a JR Freeze moment where he goes,
Yeah, you did freeze for a second.
"Yeah."
All right.
I'm gonna say this right now. If Boston makes the World Series, I will not watch a single game. Look, I love LB. I love LB so much. He's a great dude. He's a great commissioner. League is owed to him. But I absolutely will not stand for the homering. So I will not be able to. I don't know if I can.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Like, in his heart, he'll be like fluttering, like, Red Sox in World Series.
Oops, I made him bunt.
You know what? But if Tim's right and it's against the Cubs, would that really upset you?
No.
I don't know. No. Cardinals
Well,
Cubs
we all
rivalry.
have to remember Boston invented baseball in 2004. So,
That's
there is
true.
that.
Yeah. All right.
Well,
The inventor of baseball in America.
well, they won that 75 World Series 3-4.
Which I have watched game one of that. I love that game one. Louis Tiant throws like 160 some pitches and could have probably gone 3 more innings. I love that game.
Man, different times.
Very
100
different.
is barely reached anymore. All right. Well, there you guys have it. 4 different predictions for our World Series winners. A lot of upsets, a lot of chalk, but in the end, 4 different World Series champions predicted by the 4 of us, which means that it's anybody's World Series. This is going to be a very exciting playoffs. A lot of teams have really good seasons. And I think I can speak for everyone when I say we are looking forward to the next week of streams to see who will be matched up in the World Series. And as a reminder, if you are not plugged into our Twitch channel where all of these games are going to be presented, we are now doing this in a watch party mode where Kamish does a live simulation where we are watching through the scores as they happen. We're not actually going into a single game. We are watching all the scores develop as they happen. That's how we finished off the final week of the regular season, and it was a very enjoyable format where we were able to keep tabs on all the games happening across the league, get in touch with all of the highlights. So those will be happening throughout the wild card and division series, and maybe I don't know how he's going to do the LCS with fewer teams playing, but we'll see what happens. Monday night is going to be the wild card. Tuesday night is going to be division series. Thursday night is going to be the league championship series, with the World Series starting sometime soon after that, depending on when Kamish goes on vacation. So keep tabs in the Discord, which is also in the link in the description below, to keep up with all of the announcements that'll happen in the league. Follow all of the action as we start the playoffs, wrap up the season, start the playoffs here in 2027. Our first playoffs with the expanded playoff format, where we added an extra wild card team, changed the wild card round to 3 games, and then 7 games from that point on. It's going to be a heck of a lot of baseball, and I am excited to witness all of it. Any last comments before we move on to the playoffs, gentlemen?
It's been a fun season to watch.
I'm looking forward to the start of the 2027 regular season.
Yeah. Let's get it underway.
I think our predictions are pretty solid. What'd you think?
I think so, too.
I'm good. We didn't lose 100. The Diamondbacks didn't lose 100 games.
Yeah, there you go.
We were mildly irritating to every team that we played against.
Hey, you finished above 3 teams in the NL West, so that's nothing to sneeze at.
I mean, honestly, being irritating is a goal in life. So,
and I didn't think small ball is not
impressive.
my cup of tea. And I've kind of felt like I was forced into it, and I've actually kind of grown to love it. Yay! And
All right.
Cabron Hayes is on the market. Please take him off my hands.
Please,
Hey,
somebody-
Cody, you listening? You can take
Cody
Brian
always
Hayes.
says he will, but
He never does.
I
He,
don't
he always says he will, but when it comes time to pay, his pockets are empty.
Hey, maybe that's how Steve gets the last Kim, is they attach Key Brian Hayes to it. Huh? Steve, huh? All right, guys. Well, thank you guys so very much for watching. We are very glad to have the podcast pals back. Hopefully, we'll pick this up more. Just our lives got crazy, but enjoy the eMLB 2027 playoffs. Until next time, take care, everybody.
Can't wait to see you all again in 3 months.
Recording has started.
Hey,
It's like he knew.
Any bar in Cincinnati, baby. You walk
Cool.
in and you ask for a bingo bomb. They know what you're asking for.
it's the boss's favorite drink.
They even having them at McDonald's out there, man.
Exactly.